Hey everybody, it's Q4. And if you're like pretty much everybody else, you're planning for what you're going to do in 2017. And at the base of all of our businesses is our team. Whether that's a buyer's agent, a listing agent, or just an ISA or a VA. And look, I got to tell you, if you're doing work that you can outsource to an ISA, like setting appointments, come on. Go find somebody and leverage your time. That's how you're going to grow. Look, everybody knows they need good talent on their team. But the problem is, how do you find it? How do you find those people? How do you do it effectively from a time perspective? I just met these guys, WiseHire. These guys will help you grow. Here's what they'll do. Let's say you need an ISA, WiseHire will, number one, help you craft your job ad. I guarantee you they've written thousands more than you have. Then, they'll do the work. They'll post it on all the big job boards. Indeed, ZipRecruiter, you know the places. And here's the magic. As candidates apply, WiseHire automatically administers the DISC assessment. Okay? That's the personality profile. They'll tell you how close this guy's or girl's personality is to the job that you just posted. So look, if you're serious about growing your business, go check out a couple of great resources from WiseHire. Go to the site, get their free ebook. It's going to teach you everything you know about hiring in real estate. You can go to wisehire.com/super. That's WIZE hire.com/super. Get your own free profile to learn your personal strengths and weaknesses. And most importantly, if you need to make some hires, register for WiseHire. Start making smarter hiring decisions today. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's up? Hey, 2017. I'm super excited about 2017. You know what's been on my list? I got to share this with you guys. What has been on my list, my to-do list, is live events, right? I mean, we do all these episodes all the time. Live events is the new thing. And we're going to do one in 2017. There's no doubt about it. We haven't quite figured out what date to do it. I think it's going to be in the summer. But you know why I haven't done that? I'll share something. You know why I have not thrown a live event? This is not like me at all, but I'm gonna share it. Like, it's a little bit of fear, right? It's kind of like throwing a party and, the party, you say, hey, you show up at 8:00, it's 7:30 and nobody's there yet. And you're like, oh man, like, is anybody gonna show up to my party? I don't know why. I mean, is that our freshman or sophomore self speaking to us in our 30s and our 40s and our late 20s? Maybe. So we're gonna do a live event in preparation for an actual live event, boots on the ground. We're gonna do a virtual summit. Okay. Now this virtual summit is going to happen January 17th of 2017. So if you're listening to this, this is going out December the 8th. We're still building the site, but I'm going to give you early bird access to it. So here's the plan. There's going to be all the usual suspects, man. We're going to have about 30 speakers, between 30 and 45 speakers, all top-notch people, a lot of old guests, the ones that, people have responded really well to, as well as some new ones. So, number one, if you are interested in us doing a live event, I would love to gauge some interest. If you want a free ticket to our virtual summit, I'll give it to you. You can have it. Okay. Here, I'll tell you how to get early bird access. Now, if you are listening to this after December 13th, you can just go to the site. Now, the site is getlistingssummit.com. Okay, and summit is spelled with two M's, just in case you didn't know. So getlistingssummit.com. If you're listening to this prior to the 13th, you can send an email to Andre, Andrey, at getlistingssummit.com and just let them know. Say, hey, I heard it on the show, Toby Show. I want my free ticket. So if you are looking to grow, why wouldn't you show up? And if you are willing to do something live and actually pay for something, let me know. Okay. That's it. Now, today's episode, we'll get into this really quickly. If you heard that Wise Hire spot, that's the guy. That's the guys. That's who we have on the show today. Now, this guy is a pretty amazing guy. He wrote the personality profile for Tony Robbins. Tony likes this guy. If Tony endorses him, I have to too. We're going to talk about how to hire, why knowing your personality, right? Getting a little bit introspective with yourself is good for your business, and we'll get you more on point. We're going to talk about how to find flow in your business, and I just got done reading a book called The Rise of Superman, and there's a lot of talk about flow. It's the sort of new thing. Getting into a flow state. All right, that's it. Let's get to it. If you haven't, we're playing around. We're playing around with the show. I've been dropping the last 2 episodes we dropped. I didn't put on the website, but what I did put them on iTunes. I'm trying to figure out how many of you guys are listening on the website and how many of you guys are actually subscribed to the show. I think most of you guys are subscribed. But if you haven't subscribed, go to the site. Go to superagentslive.com. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe on Stitcher Radio. Give us a rating and review. That helps. If you happen to be in the giving mood in December. All right, that's it. Let's get to it. Today on the show, I think you're in for a treat. Today's guest has an interesting background. Now, I'm constantly talking about DISC profile. I think you guys should know yours. Knowing DISC and understanding how it works will help you make better hires. It'll help you better customize your business and what you do and how you're spending your time if you are in alignment with tasks and your personality profile. Today's guest is the guy who wrote the DISC profile for Tony Robbins. That's where I send all of you guys. So excited to have Jay Niblick. Jay, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Toby. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. So
listen, there's a lot that I want to get into on this because I do, as I said a minute ago, I do think knowing your DISC can help you find alignment, find flow in your business. So before we get there, I always want to know a little bit about you. So take a minute, tell everybody a little bit about the man behind the brand.
Well, let's see. I've been doing this a long time now. So I wrote the DISC Index, which is a version of Dr. Marston's 18 years ago, I guess it is now. And we've used that. The parent company has about 1,400 consultants around the world, maybe 32 countries, I think, as of last month. So we just use these profiles in a wide variety of different ways. But the new division, Wise Hire, was designed to bring that technology to bear for hiring. And it's the team leaders and brokers, but majority of them are mega agents and team leaders. Mm-hmm. And we have become experts in using that technology. And so I figured there was an awful lot of people. I wrote that profile for Tony, good friend, great guy, put it up on his site because he had a lot of people that needed it. And we noticed the trend was a ton of real estate agents, team leaders who were looking to hire were coming over there and sending people to it.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, why don't we organize something specifically for real estate agents exclusively?
And I'll tell you, so I have a VA. Excuse me. I have a VA from well, I won't even say the company name, but I have a VA, and when they send me a new candidate, that's one of the things that I look at. I actually, to be honest with you, when I make hires, and I could be making a mistake on this, Jay, but I know what I want. I know what profile I want, and before I read their resume, before I listen and watch their video, the first thing I look at is that profile, because I want. That's the first thing I. So, but hold on, let's go back. You wrote it for Tony, good friend, right? That's awesome. What is your background? I mean, do you have a background in what is your background that you could actually write something like this?
My degrees are in organizational psychology. So
okay.
That's the very first profile I wrote was something called the Attribute Index many years back. And it's just a different theory, different science, researched by different PhDs. And DISC was a model that was out there. Dr. Marston at Harvard started talking about that as early as 1928. So it's been around a long time. But the facilitation of it sometimes was more complicated than it needed to be. So I authored the DISC index, and we call it the DISC Plus. It actually has a whole other piece from a whole other set of research that looks at motivations as well as just behavior. DISC is historically just a behavioral profile. How do you typically behave? What kind of tasks are you great at and love or suck at and hate? The motivation piece I added into it, making it the DISC Plus, with our own take on it. So a lot of different changes to it, made the instrument more accurate. But that's where I came out of, and we created the profile for the company, but we put it up on Tony's site because he needed something like that to be able to give to all of the people that come to his site and are looking for some self-development work.
Sure. Well, here's how I tell people to use the DISC, and this is again just at the top. Is, for me, Jay, I'm 99D, 99I. That's who I am. And for somebody like me, I shouldn't be doing paperwork. That's not my bit, right? And if whenever I try to force myself to do that S stuff or that C stuff, I just find myself bogged down. And I think too many people, they get into real estate and they go, oh, I want to be a listing agent, but they're an SC. And I'm like, you're probably better working with buyers. So don't force yourself, into something that doesn't naturally fit with your profile. In what ways do you find people that, the people that log on Tony's site, what are people taking the DISC for? Let's start there.
The vast majority are taking it for one of two different buckets they're falling into. Either personal development, they're coming along and they're looking for a profile that they can self-interpret, they can read about what their natural talents and strengths and weaknesses are. The other large segment are real estate agents, team leaders for the most part, the mega agents who are looking to hire. They want to bring on a virtual assistant, an ISA, an admin, showing assistant, buyer's agents, things like that. They don't normally need to be replacing themselves with a listing agent, but if they get large enough, they do. Mm-hmm. So it typically ends up being for hiring purposes. What you're talking about, the trend that we see is in sales, there's really 4 roles in real estate. You've got the listing agent. Again, not a ton of hiring happening there because it's normally a team leader that's doing the listing that says, I need buyer's agents, ISAs, transaction coordinators, whatever. That's the first type of sales role. The second is the ISA. It's a sales role. Mm-hmm. It's not as aggressive. It's not as much hunter-gatherer like you and I would be the DIs. These people are a little bit softer on the D, more on the IS, still not great on the C. They got to have the high I. They have to be able to dial 150 calls a day and talk to people. You have to have really great influence with just over the phone contact. You can't pick up any of those body signals or anything like that. And then we're finding a trend for 2 different types of buyer's agents. And it comes to mind because you just mentioned it. There's the hunter-gatherer, the hunter or the helper. There's the buyer's agents that somebody brings on that says, well, 80% of your stuff, I'll give you leads, but the majority of it, you got to go hunt. You got to prospect. You got to close. It's not too dissimilar from a listing agent. Not as aggressive. They have to be able to say, I'm still going to work with these buyers. It requires more patience, a little bit better S, a little bit higher C. But then we're finding there's actually a helper buyer's agent. And it's the team leader of the team that's got plenty of leads coming in. They actually have an ISA. They're scheduling the appointments, locking them up, lining them up, closing them. And it's just an agent that really doesn't have to do a whole lot of selling, if any, just servicing, the helper versus hunter agent. And then you get into a whole lot of S and C, because they have to be able to be fine when that person says, can you show me my 53rd house I want to look at? And the DNI is like, pick one of the top 10, dadgummit, and shut up.
Yeah.
You got to be more patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Pick one. It's good. It's a lot of paperwork. We actually looked at the 240 tasks that typically have to be done from womb to tomb on any home, and 68% of them are SC. The paperwork, the filing, the going out and the showings and reams of papers and all that stuff. And so you do get people that come in saying, I want to be a realtor, and they are a DI. They're a hunter-gatherer, great salesperson, but they do themselves the disservice of saying, I got the sale. Now, 68% of it's going to be me doing all the stuff I hate to do.
Right. And that's all I just want to sign it and move on. Right. So just this is a little bit different. This is a little bit different, Jay. But so that 240 tasks. Do you have a spreadsheet somewhere? Is that public knowledge, or can you or would you disseminate that? Because I think people would find that interesting.
Oh, It's up there, actually. The company's called Wise Hire, but it's with a Z. Well, it makes me Wise Hire, but instead of an S, it's a Z. And there's an ebook up there for free called Hidden, Hidden. And you just go to the website and you can get that. And we outline it in there, and got a whole bunch of C's to help us kind of create that list. Otherwise, it would have been incredibly inaccurate.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's up there. And that's the thing. You know, it's amazing in the hiring in real estate, which is what that company specializes in. We have people that come in to the job and go, well, nobody told me this was a sales job. It's amazing. You know, they're like, well, I thought this was a great service job. I'd go out to all my friends and family. So the two big problems you see are you're on one side of the fence or the other. You got the salesperson who says, he has to sell and I love it. Let's go do it. And they don't realize that they're the whole company. Unless you're joining a team, you got to do it all, which means you get excited when you make the sale. But like you said, now I got to go actually service it. Man. Or the majority, unfortunately, which is why I think probably 80 to 90% of the people fail in the first 2 years, at least according to the National Association of Realtor stats, is because they get in thinking it's service. I'll sell my friends. I'll hang my shingle out there, all my network of church people and everything. I'll have all the business I need. And I just get to help people. And that's great. But none of that help starts until you go sell something. You're not really great at prospecting.
Yeah. And nothing happens. Nothing happens until somebody sells something, right? Nothing in the world happens until somebody sells something. So let me ask you this. You know, again, going back to the way that I'm using the disc, right? So I get a new profile of a candidate. The first thing I look at is their disc, again, because I'm looking for a very specific profile. Am I making a mistake in doing that? And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to predict their performance based on how they make decisions. Is that a mistake, or how should we first, if we're going to look at hiring a VA, an ISA, a buyer's agent, a listing agent, whoever it is, for you and your background, Jay, what does that look like? Where should I start, and walk us through those steps?
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm too biased in saying this. We built the company around this philosophy because we find it to be the most effective the world over, regardless of industry. And it's to start with the things that are the most natural and unmovable or immovable. And that's the natural style, the natural talents, what you're talking about, the disc. Lots of people have done lots of different looks and surveys and research on predictive analytics into hiring. Past performance is absolutely very poor in predicting future performance. Now, if it's the same job in the same industry, you can pretty accurately predict to a much better degree, will they be successful for me? So the guy was selling Chevys across the street. Now he's going to come sell Fords for me. Pretty good stuff. If they've never been in real estate, which is the norm we see, they're coming from a million other industries, saying they were a rock star here or a horrible failure there doesn't necessarily work. So job titles don't work. You look at the things they can't change. I think what you're doing with looking at DISC or any good, solid profile that measures talents is absolutely the first step. Okay. And then you can move into interviewing and field testing and testing out, and, hey, can you sell me this pen, that kind of stuff. Mm. But the profile is so important because those are the things that don't change. One of the things we talk about with our clients is don't hire for things that you can learn. Find a great salesperson. Real estate, and no offense to the industry, it's just the features, the functions, and the benefits. It's the product in their tool bag. If they're a killer salesperson, they can learn. Right. They sell anything. Yep. I don't care whether it's a pen or a house. But go with the stuff that's not going to change, because you can't hire somebody with the experience, and that's the biggest mistake I think most of our clients suffer from is, I want someone who's already got their license and they've already sold 5 houses. It's like, I don't know what it is about that magic number. Well, if they've already got their license and they've already sold 5 houses, about 95% of them aren't looking to move. Only 6% of agents that are existing moved brokerages last year. Again, an our statistic. Okay. So instead of saying, hey, I want, the 1% that's out there moving around, or the single-digit percent that's moving around, we're all about, it's a little bit tougher and it takes more time, but go find somebody whose disc matches the personality, the profile of what we see. What we've done there is we've actually studied top performers in all those roles and said, what's that personality look like? What's the profile that correlates with best performers? And we put a benchmark up. if they're good enough, like you are, to look at the profile and understand what that is in any role that they're hiring, that's cool. We put a Y score up there that just ranks everybody from 0 to 100. So for the uninitiated that don't have the experience and the time that you do to say, I know what I'm looking for in any role, we're trying to help them understand, is this person a 93% match or a 2% match? And then you go into the resume. Then you do the interview.
Right.
Then you do your expertise stuff there.
Now, so I want you to unpack something, Jay, because and by the way, everybody, if you don't know your disc, if you haven't taken the test, you take the free one on Tony Robbins. Do you know that link off the top of your head, Jay?
Just send them to Wisehire. We've got it up there. WIZEHIRE. I love Tony, but if you go to Tony's, you're going to enter yourself into his marketing machine. So if you want to do that too, you can just go to TonyRobbins.com.
Okay.
But we put a free link up there for all the agents to take on their own, so they don't have to get into that marketing machine and then be called by their coaches. So
to be clear, Jay, so you guys offer a free disc test. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So go to Wisehire, guys. But take this. Okay. Now, let's assume everybody listening has went and they've stopped the recording and they went and took it. And now they know. So, this is kind of a strange question. Should I, or any of us, again, I'm DI, when I know what profile I want for each of the roles, okay? Should I, when it comes to hiring, I want to drive into culture in a second. I'm trying to get us there, and I'm not doing it very elegantly. But, how do I appropriately build a team, right? So I know what profile I want, but and let's say it's a DI. Okay, let's say that's the case. There's going to be a problem if I'm a DI and I go and hire 5 other DIs. We're all going to be fighting for dominance on the floor. So when it comes to hiring, is there a magic balance of getting an accurate or correct mix or ratio of DIs, ISs, SCs?
It's a great question. You hear people talk all the time about diversity in corporations and stuff. Well, we talk about talent diversity. And so you're bringing up a very crucial point that we see with teams. And the answer is hire for what the role needs.
Okay.
Here's the thing. That can create the type of problems you're talking about. If I need 5 hunter-gatherer aggressive salespeople and 4 buyer's agents who are more the helper kind, and an administrative assistant and a transaction coordinator, that difference in personalities can create potential conflict on the team, because the high C hates me and they hate you.
Yeah.
No offense to any high C.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But they're like, when we just blow past details and go, hell, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do, that drives them insane. But it's the right thing for that transaction coordinator or accountant or office manager to have in their personality. So always go with the things that are the best fit for the job. And then with education, one of the things we'll do is give clients a team report that puts everybody into the same display, and you can see where all the different team members are. That is something you can manage around. The other mistake we see is people go, well, let's hire the people that we'll all get along with. Mm-hmm. And that's great, but then they don't have the right talent set for the job. So you're going to create a problem one way or the other. Either you get a great mix of people on the team that you love to talk and hang out with each other, but they're not necessarily doing their job very well, or you get the perfect fit for the job, and you can learn to understand, I appreciate why that person has the profile they do and why they might drive me a little batty, and I need to modify when I go in and talk to them, because I can't just kick in the door and say, get this done, make it happen, go.
Right.
I need to appreciate. I'll have to explain it and painfully give some more detail, but I can manage that.
Yeah, and that goes back to culture, right? So I think, I agree with you, Jay. So if you hire for the role, right, you hire the talent for the role, and then manage when there is conflict, manage that conflict through culture, right? Culture of, having a very patient bias in your, running through your culture. Okay. I don't know if we unpacked that as much as it could be. So what am I missing? Well, hold on. Wait. Let me ask you something. So when I wanted to talk about this earlier. So everybody again, has taken their disc profile. You know what you are. Now, when I get that profile of mine or a candidate, I'm going to see the natural style and then adaptive style. Can you explain, even though it seems very, very clear and obvious what those are, but maybe take a minute and explain what those are, the natural versus adaptive, and how we should look at that or think about it.
Oh, no, it's really important, actually. I think, of course, Dr. Marston from Harvard was just brilliant when he created this, and it's the only profile in the world there that does what you're talking about. The natural behavioral style is close enough to the surface consciously that I'm aware of it. With intent, I can actually stop and think, how am I behaving? It's observable not just to the world around me, but myself. And so, as a result, I can attempt to modify it. I can try to adapt. Now, when I'm in conscious thought, I can adapt. I can stop and say, Jay, like I was just talking about, I've created an issue on my team where I can't kick in the door and blow my lid and say, hurry up and get this done. I have to stop and go, calm down, Jay. You're getting ready to talk to somebody. They need more detail and be more patient. When I'm in unconscious mode, subconscious, when I'm just running a million miles an hour, I don't tend to think about what I'm doing. I just react. Mm-hmm. And the latter is called my natural style. Without thinking about it, this is how I'm going to behave. But I can adapt to called the modified style or the adapted style. Adaptation's okay. 20% or so is what we normally see. That's fine. My description is always a job. The analogy is you got a boy that's a stock shelf kid, and he's got to go just stock the shelves in the store. In order to reach the top shelf, which happens all the time, ideally he's 6 feet tall. Now, if I stand on my tiptoes, I can reach if maybe I'm 5'8". So we don't ever want to hire for adaptation. You go, oh, you know what? I need a D that's a little bit higher, like an 80. But he's a 65. He can, but his adapted gets up to 80. That's awesome. That's like hiring the kid that's 5'8", saying, well, he can stand and reach the top shelf on his tiptoes. It's a perfect analogy because that individual, imagine all day long, 8-hour shift. He's unstable. He's not nearly as good if he's flat-footed. His calves get tired. His legs get sore. He gets worn out. The exact same thing happens. If I have to adapt my behavior all day long, it wears me out. I get exhausted. And even when I do it, I'm not nearly as good as a naturally high C. If you and I pretend to look at a spreadsheet and make sure we're finding all the typos and stuff,
right.
First off, we would die at the end of the day. We'd be like, geez, just give me a break. And we still wouldn't be nearly as accurate as somebody who's naturally good at it. So all of us can adapt. And 20% or so during the day is fine. But you never want to hire for somebody who is going to be expected to adapt all day, all week. They'll burn out. They're not going to perform as well anyway. And they usually end up quitting because they're just exhausted.
And that is a great analogy. That's a great, the way you illustrated that is really, really well. Tell me then. So what you're saying, what I hear you saying, Jay, is that we should hire for the natural and not the 20% or the person who adapts to their environment. Why is that adaptive piece even in there then? If we should be only looking at the natural and dismissing the adaptive, is it because you want us to recognize how much they're able to adapt, or why is that even in there, Jay?
Well, in hiring, absolutely. We in the algorithms don't even consider the adapted. It's not even factored in. But there's a lot more than hiring. When it comes to personal development, the two big benefits are from a coaching perspective, because a lot of, we've got those 1,400 coaches around the world. So they'll use that to help assess how natural are you? How authentic are you in your role? I walk into a room to have a coaching session with a person, let's say an executive, a team leader, on a real estate team, and I find out that they've got a 65-point adaptation. Their C is normally 10, and they're adapting it to 75. Or their D is normally 20, and they're adapting it well. That tells me the significance of the stress and the adaptation that they're doing, or the adaptation they're doing, and immediately I can start coaching to that and saying, look, you need to offload some of this stuff because you're trying to be something you're not, and I can guarantee you it's not working for you. So it's usually outside of the hiring scenario where that information would be valuable from a personal development standpoint. You guys go take your disc, ladies, take your disc profile, and if you see any of those 4 columns adapting more than 20 or maybe even, let's say, more than 30 points to give it a little buffer, then that's an area where you're trying to be something that you're not. And that adaptation doesn't show up if you have to do it every Thursday at 2. If it's showing up in the profile, it's prevalent enough in your daily life that you're flagging it there, which means it's a problem. So if you guys take your disc, when you get it, look at those 4 bars, and if any of them show an adaptation of greater than 30 points, either up or down, that's something you need to look at and say, I'm trying to do something during my day. Why am I trying to be less of this or more of that? And our best coaching tip would be, can you outsource that? Can you get rid of that stuff and find someone else who can do it for you? Because you're not going to enjoy it, and it's probably not getting the care that it needs from somebody that's, we always say, find someone who loves to do what you loathe to do, and you'll have a great team.
That's a great line. That's a great line. So what about, this is, I don't want to get too soft here, but, for me, Jay, like, I'm a very introspective person, and the questions that are on the disc, and there's weird questions in there, at least on the Tony Robbins one, right? So if in a version or something like this is a question, if you're at a conference and what would you rather do, or where do you feel most natural or normal, or something like that, and it says like in the hallways, listening to the speaker, and then there's another third option. And I think some of those questions that are on there, it takes to answer those truthfully. I think it takes a person that is a relatively introspective, and they truly know how they operate or how they feel most normal. Is how common, percentage wise, is it that people will take the test and have a bias towards trying to predict, or trying to they're answering the questions in the way that they think they should answer the questions, instead of the way that is accurate, especially in the case of hiring. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah. A couple of fancy words, not, I don't like jargony terms, but these are psychometrics, and they're ipsative, just meaning these are self-reported personality profiles. Mm-hmm. But in my world, we have to understand that these are prone to artificial influence. Mm-hmm. One of the keys to making a good assessment is to make sure you have redundancies built in a way that, and it's not like it's designed to, if I'm lying, I'm here to trip you up, but it looks at the internal consistencies of your answers. So we could probably get good, accurate validity and reliability out of about a third of the questions on that assessment.
Got it.
We triple that. There's a tripling of those, because we're looking to pass it by you again in a slightly different way, and again in a slightly different way. Now, with super intent and a lot of attention, if I wanted to go in and pretend to be something I wasn't, and I worked really hard, I could probably influence that pretty well. But we've got enough questions in there where it is damn hard to consistently remember what I was pretending to answer across the entire spectrum of items that we have to rank. And it's called a forced ordinal ranking. So there's another one called the Likert style, where I could just put mostly agrees, mostly disagree, like 1 through 5, 1 through 10. Those things don't have much validity and reliability to them, because I can just say, yes, most on that, most on this. When I have 4 items and I only have 4 spaces to put them in, I can't double up. I have to say one of them is better than the other. And here's the trick up. And I didn't say trip up, I said trick up. It is designed to filter through somebody that's trying to mess with it, because I might start to think this is what I should be answering. But what they fail to realize is that's them telling us what their opinion of what's more important is.
Interesting, man.
So they still have to be telling us what they think is the right answer.
Yeah. So no, I get it.
That's why the validity is so high.
Okay, perfect. So what am I missing here? We've talked about, where, that okay, on WiseHire, I can see the profiles that best fit each role. What have we've covered a lot here. What am I not asking you that I should be teasing out here?
I think we pretty much covered most of it. The keys are, we've gone over one of the most important things for hiring is hiring based on natural talents, things that you're never going to change, no matter how many classes or books you give them. That's the most important thing. Everything else can be learned. You know, how do I sell real estate? What's the features, the functions, the benefits, all that stuff. Hire for the role, and don't hire for who you like, especially if you're a team leader. You're not going to like anybody that's not another DI, aggressive hunter-gatherer, or that you're a DC. You're not going to hire anybody that's not like you if you only hire based on who you like in an interview. Oh, yeah, they felt like me. You're not hiring yourself. You're hiring for another role. So always hire for the talents best for the role. Take the profiles yourself. I think that's absolutely crucial. Every single person should take their own profile, identify their strengths and weaknesses. There's 2 tasks in that process. Make sure you're focusing on your strengths and making sure you're using the heck out of them. Is there anything in there that's a strength that you're not leveraging to the hilt? It's like energy in a battery. If I've got a super talent for this, I better make sure I'm using it as much as possible. And conversely, if you've got a weakness, get rid of your dependence on that weakness as much as you can. Okay, if I don't have to do this, find some other way. Virtual assistants, oftentimes one of the first things people hire, if not a full-time assistant, because it's just getting off the stuff on their plate that they shouldn't be messing with. So personal development, I think that's important.
Love it. Okay. So, in terms of how you built your business, so just so I understand, Jay, you reference 1,400 coaches out there. Now, this globally, is this Wise Hire? Do you guys have 1,400 coaches? Or is that a different company of yours, or what is that?
The parent company is called Intermetrics.
Okay,
I founded that company back 18 years ago, almost 19 years ago now, and that's where the consultants and coaches are globally. They use these profiles with a variety of companies, probably 10,000 or so corporate clients, millions and millions of employees. Wise Hire is the new division that's basically designed to focus on exclusively hiring and primarily in real estate. Not exclusively. We've got 10% of our customer base is non-real estate. But we said this is a really bad ratio, 90% failure rate. Where do we go where we've got a small group? They don't have a huge HR department to help them.
Yep.
They don't have a huge bench strength of staff. And the hiring and turnover is just horrendous. Where can we get the most bang for our buck? Who can we help the most? And real estate was where we decided they needed it.
Well, very similar to what I did, Jay. I mean, I started this show 3 years ago, and I said, well, what industry? I wanted to do a podcast, and I didn't want to just talk to entrepreneurs. And I said, well, what industry out there can I have the most impact? And clearly, when we look at something like real estate, there are millions of realtors out there, you couple that with a very high failure rate, and everybody needs training. So I picked this industry. I think you picked it for a lot of the same reasons. You founded that company 18 years ago, and you've built a global company. It's clearly very successful. You're a very successful guy, Jay. When it comes to success as an entrepreneur, what I mean, I've seen SCs kill it. I've seen guys like you and me, DIs, kill it. Is there a profile that is best suited to be an entrepreneur?
Depends on the type of entrepreneur. The best answer I can give is no.
Okay.
How I met Tony, actually, was he wrote the foreword for my first book called What's Your Genius? And that was the summary of a 7-year, 197,000 person study in multiple countries, and we were looking for correlations with performance and personality. Exactly what you just said. That was the impetus behind the whole study, is there an ideal profile for success as an entrepreneur? And what we found out, I remember the day the PhDs came back and said, no, there's not. And I about crapped my pants. I said, oh, that's a lot of time and money. And the answer is no. Now, what we did find, though, was that there were 2 things that correlated with success, and it absolutely fits as an entrepreneur in real estate, any entrepreneur. And it's that the best performing had 2 things in common that no one else correlated with as far, directly correlated. The worse your performance, the lower these 2 were, the better, the higher. The only 2 things. And it was self-awareness and authenticity. So I've kind of already indirectly talked about it in this interview, but it's those that did the best entrepreneurially knew their strengths and weaknesses way better than anybody else. They were freakish about it. Like they had a laminated card in their back wallet with a bullet list that says, I rock at and I suck at. And if you ask the average guy on the street, they start to think, what am I great at? Finger goes to chin. Not these people. The best performing entrepreneurs, man, it is rote memorization. You ask them what they suck at and they know. Boom, 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 boom. And what are they great at? Bang, 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 bang. Then they're authentic. And that is, they don't just know it. A lot of people know it, but then they're true to it. They go, and you ask them how it lines up with the jobs they have. Team leaders are a great example. That's an authentic person. They know they stink at this. They got a showing assistant. They know they're bad at that. They have an administrative assistant. They know they should be spending their time as the CEO generating more profit. They've got an ISA. They could do it, but so they're true to their talents and their position. And that's the key. Is the success is know what you're great at first and what you suck at, and then incorporate that knowledge into the job you do on a daily basis, where you get rid of as much as possible of what you're not good at and only focus on your natural strengths. Then you're going to crush it. That's how you do it. Those are the people that say, I don't have a job. I love what I do. It's effortless. I enjoy it. I can't wake up to do it again tomorrow.
I mean, this is Gerber's E-Myth, right? I mean, double down on your strengths and just and outsource your weaknesses.
It is, yeah. I think I presented next to Gerber on stage up in Canada once, and we actually got in a little bit of an argument afterwards, because I said my only difference of opinion, Michael, is you say there's a more prototypical profile for entrepreneurs, and most of them aren't entrepreneurs, and they should just go get a job. To your point, I've seen incredibly successful entrepreneurs who have a profile that's vastly different than mine. I mean, I came out of sales at Johnson & Johnson, and I've seen those SCs, I've seen ISs, I've seen DCs. The key is that they're authentic. They don't try to be a successful entrepreneur like another profile. They don't read somebody and go, oh, you got to be this, 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 and this to be successful as an entrepreneur. That's not, the guy that wrote that or the guy that's teaching that has a different profile. So you can't mimic it. You can't copy the activities. It's like the Ferrari, telling the Volkswagen how to win a race. Well,
right.
Ain't going to work. He has to realize he's a Volkswagen, or vice versa.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the only difference. I think E-Myth, he doesn't necessarily point out that whatever the profile, whatever your natural talents are, you can be a successful entrepreneur. You just have to do it in a way that best aligns with who you are.
Got it. I love it, man. Well, listen, we always we're going to wrap up here, Jay, unless there's something that you're burning to share. But we always ask for a book recommendation, and I need to be better about teeing people up for this. So here's the setup, Jay. I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book do I need to go buy today, right now?
Would I be horribly biased if I said mine?
Yes, you would. You mention, certainly mention your book. And I know that's, What's Your Genius. And if anyone wants to check that out, you can just go to whatsyourgenius.com. But somebody else's book that you really think that people should read.
I think, and it's nothing to do with any affiliations or anything like that, I think Gary Keller probably does a great job of talking to the real entrepreneurial aspects of success in real estate. And I don't, whether you're with any other franchise, Millionaire Agent, I think he does a really good job. I think he does better than anybody else I've seen in the industry as far as picking at the overall how to be authentic and true. I think it does have a lot of a slant towards a team model.
Yep.
But I think that's what's working. It's the fastest growing trend we're seeing in real estate.
100%.
So, it works. Go with it.
I think I agree with you. I think mechanically that's a good book. I think, I'll tell you what book on hiring or around hiring that I really found useful was, and it's just a portion of this book, but Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Selling Machine. Have you read that book, Jay?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so there's a section in there where he literally gives you questions to ask. He shows you actual simulations or explains how he goes through and hires somebody and the things that he puts them through. So I think just again mechanically, Gary does a great job. I think more, I don't know, poetic way, Chet Holmes does teases it out really, really well. Okay, well look, here's the deal, Jay. I always encourage people listening to this, if they've gotten anything out of it, to reach out and say thank you to you. I know you're a busy guy. You have a startup. You have another very well founded and long-term company. Where can people find more about you, Jay?
Well, the bio's up there really on Intermetrics, I think. Probably just Google Jay Niblick, Jay, and it's Niblick. You get all the bio stuff that the PR people make sure is up there and prevalent. So
sure, okay,
it'll be around.
Do you have an email where people can ping you or no?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just jay@wisehire.com.
With a Z. With a Z. All right. Hey,
WIZE.
Well, I'll be the first one to kick off the thank you train, man. Thanks. I appreciate it, bud.
I appreciate you. I really do.
All right. Let's keep in touch.
Awesome, Toby. Thank you very much.